Mr. Jones is in the house. Oh, did it say we're streaming? I think we are. Yes, we are. Cool. Okay. Excellent. Thanks for popping on, everybody. I know it's kind of short notice, but it's good seeing some faces that aren't always here. So I do have to admit, I was racking my brain. I was like, all last night and this morning, I'm like, what am I going to stream about? And my brain just couldn't come up with a new topic. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do a hangout. There's so much new stuff that's come out, and I'm sure you guys got a lot of questions and whatnot. So yeah, I just open up the floor. If you guys want me to show off anything that you'd like, or you have any questions that you need help with, let me know, and we'll tackle that. Oh, if before we hop on that, if anyone is watching the YouTube stream and wants to hop on the Zoom, go to the Weaver Space community or in the email that I sent out and click on the join the Zoom button, okay, or link. So that way you can join us here, okay? Without further ado, yeah, guys, open it up. You guys got any questions or something? Nothing?
Yeah,
Okay.
I solved all the world's problems.
I'll ask a quick one,
Sure.
hopefully. In Total CMS 3, when you're creating a custom schema, can you add a file depot? Is there a stack? Is there a stack for doing for that in the admin? You know, when you create a custom admin section.
I believe there is.
Did
I forget that one? I could have forgot that because Depot didn't exist actually for a long time. So it is possible I didn't create that.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Let's have a gander. First off, I do have to tip the hat here because we do have a Total CMS legend in the house. So if you guys didn't know, Total CMS might not ever exist if it wasn't for Dave Hitting right here. Okay. So we can all thank Dave because he was working on a website for his son's rock climbing business.
Yep.
And wanted to show like a little drop down on his son's thing. And we hacked together a solution with my markdown stack and a Foundation 1 form and got it working. And then it's turned into this massive application now.
And wanted to show like a little drop.
Oops. Hubert decided to mute you, bud. Had a lot of feedback. So anyway, thanks, Dave, for that.
Yeah, and that was years ago.
Yeah. Does your son still have the rock climbing business?
You know what? He sold out to a venture capital firm earlier this year.
Oh, nice.
And he's actually doing quite well with it. They've given him a 3-year contract, and he's the vice president with them and part ownership in the venture capital firm. And he seems to be doing great. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, he still has it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Score.
Yeah.
Nice. I should have went into the rock climbing business.
Right, exactly. Exactly. It worked out well for him.
Excellent.
Worked out well for us too.
Yeah. Yes, right. Exactly. Okay. So you can add the field in the schema, I assume, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it works. It works there.
Okay, cool.
Just when you try to build out the custom
form. Yeah, I ran a code report on, obviously I'm working on CMS 3 a lot this week as well. And ran a little code report, and it's currently up to 50,000 lines of code. Crazy. All right. I'm going to take your word for it, but let's just have a gander. Maybe I'm being dumb here. Get rid of these Zoom windows. Turn off the auto. Now, if you enable auto build form, I assume it works, but
yes,
you obviously lose the ability to customize the form. So let's see. It is not there. Let's see if it even exists. Let me just hop into my code. Fields. Oh, it does exist. Okay, it exists. Let's see if we do. Let's see if we can just get to it right now. Let's see if we do show hidden stacks and just search for depot. Oh, that's a depot form, but not a
Yep.
field.
Yep.
Okay, I'll add that to my to-do list. It'll be in the
Okay.
next beta then. The stack exists. I just need to add it to the and there's no way of currently accessing that right now. Sorry.
Yeah, not a big deal.
Let me add that to my list because form field. Okay.
And while we're here,
Yes.
before you go, you have the style text field, and
Yes.
you can show you can do code, right? You can jump into the code layer, right, by those the greater than
Yep.
less than signs. Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When you try to use the style when you use the options to add all the different kinds of things like superscription, whatever,
Yep.
you lose that, and I don't know what option to add to put that back.
Oh, you
Like,
lose the HTML. Oh, you lose the
yeah,
HTML brackets. Oh,
yep,
okay. So
Yeah,
that
because
is
he copied the custom
yeah.
settings,
Yep.
right.
which if you go to the website, you can see all the different
I
options you have.
I
It's
I can't figure out which option it is.
Sure.
it's just
I'll
HTML.
teach you and then
Is
I'll
it just
tell you.
HTML? Okay.
So yeah, so if you just go to obviously if you click on
So
the
I went
slots of
there.
settings,
Yeah,
right? And it takes you to this thing that has just a
a
buttload of
ton.
settings, right?
Right. But I couldn't figure out
And
which
so
one.
we want to find the toolbar. So it is toolbar buttons. Okay. And then
There
inside
we
here, you'll
go.
see everything. And if you just, I mean, all these are the buttons. And the one we want is just, it's just HTML.
Got it.
So, but you have
Toolbar
to add it
buttons.
inside of the toolbar buttons, right? So, let me just go into here. Let's just go in. Oh, we'll just go into the docs and the field settings. So as you see here, like as a part of the settings, in here I have toolbar buttons, and then you can kind of group them. You know, the buttons inside these little square brackets. You can kind of create little groups of buttons, and wherever you want that button, you just put a comma and then HTML.
Very good.
So I do plan on upgrading this to have maybe a better default and some more examples in here. One thing I'll definitely add HTML because you're not the first person that's like, where'd the HTML button go when I copied this example? So yeah.
And it's helpful to understand how to read the settings on the other page too.
Yeah. So what's also, well, there's also one thing you'll notice right now. It'll be fixed in the next one. But so if you define toolbar buttons like this, and then you shrink your screen down, you'll actually notice that a lot of these will start disappearing. Okay. And I fixed that, but right now it's broken in your version that you have. And the reason is there's toolbar buttons. Okay. But then there's also toolbar buttons MD, toolbar buttons SM, and toolbar buttons XS. And what that means is for you, you can actually define different toolbars based on the size of the screen, which is kind of cool. Okay. But previously in the version you have, basically whatever you put into toolbar buttons, it was overriding it for all these other ones. And right now, whatever you define in toolbar buttons will default for everything. But it is nice to know that in the future, if you really want to, give yourself a headache and go ahead and customize toolbars for medium and small and extra small, you can do that. Okay. A little excessive, but hey, if you want to have a lot of stuff on desktop and only a few options on mobile, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. And my final question in this area,
sure.
Can you go to in Total CMS 1 when you have a style text, or in HipWig, you can go to kind of full screen for the full page for the editing?
Yes.
Does that also work in this one? Or will it? Full screen.
There it is. Full screen.
Oh, okay.
And I'm pretty sure that does require a plugin, but I'm pretty sure I have all the available plugins enabled. So yeah, let me know if it doesn't work. But yeah, if you just put in the full screen button, that should enable it, and the plugin should already be installed.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah. Sweet.
So much fun having a good time with it.
Yeah. I love the level of customization that you can get. I can understand it could be a little daunting, but having the ability to do it, I think is a lot of fun. So, sweet. Okay. Sweet. Anything else? Or I can dive into some other stuff with Total CMS 3 since we're chit-chatting about that.
Yeah.
Let me look. Let me see. What have I done recently that I can, is there anything cool that I can show off? I fixed a lot of little bugs lately, but nothing, no huge features to show off. But I can show off something pretty cool. Okay. As you guys might know, I've been for the first time ever, I took on a web design client called the Greener Camping Club in the UK. And I took it on because I thought it would be an interesting project for Total CMS 3. And I thought it would be a really amazing way to test out Total CMS, because there's nothing like testing a product like actually implementing it on a website, right? And not, I mean, I implement various small things, but like doing a live production site for a client is just a little bit different than doing a bunch of little test websites for myself and whatnot, right? And yeah, I'll eventually redo Weaverspace and I'll probably find lots of cool stuff to do with that. But for now, this guy came to me and he's like, I need this, or else I'm going to jump to Webflow or whatever it was, right? And I was like, dude, Total CMS 3 will be perfect. So yesterday, for the past few weeks or months, I've been working on the design for it. And just this week, we finalized the designs a few weeks ago, and we've been planning all the data, and this week I finally got all of the everything kind of loaded from the CMS now, right? So here is the page. I think I've shown sneak peeks of this before, but yeah, all of these camping grounds now. This directory is all loaded from Total CMS 3. There's 167 of them. So yeah, lots of them. I haven't while this entire filter form is actually built with Total CMS 3. Like all these little style things and all these are actually built out with CMS. And I'll kind of show you a sneak peek in the back end of that. But the actual form doesn't function yet. So it will, but you'll be able to like click on multiple things and then filter, and it'll filter out the list and all that jazz. But again, that doesn't work yet. But if we can click on any of these, click on this, we can go to all these are obviously, this is the main image for a campsite. And then these three, if I refresh this page, they do change, right? It randomly picks, there's a gallery for every single campsite, and it'll randomly fill in these areas. And this is the main image. I'm sure over time, I'm hoping they kind of find higher quality images, but I don't have any control over that. Okay. So yeah. And then further down, we'll notice that, every campsite has, some features or tags and whatnot. So all those icons show up here. Over here, we have a map of the UK, and it dynamically, based on the region of where this is located, it will actually highlight the region on the map on where this campgrounds is, which is kind of cool. Okay. Obviously all the information about it. This is, it doesn't have much of a read more because there's not much else to read, but maybe we'll pick a new one. I'll show you. This is actually going to be an update to Peekaboo. And then more ways of seeing that. Dynamic map using my Google Map stacks. Haven't done this yet. This will pull in reviews from Google Reviews for that particular campsite, and then it'll check availability to reserve it. Some campgrounds have a calendar widget. Let's see if we can find one. Let's see if I can pick one that randomly has one. We're going to be lucky. No, that one doesn't have it either.
How are you pulling the reviews in, Joe?
It will be done through the feeds stack.
Okay.
I'm going to create, there's going to be a new add-on pack for feeds called Feeds Reviews. And yeah, it'll suck in the reviews for a place, and then you can display them using feeds.
Will it be up to 5, or will it be more than 5? Do you know?
It'll be up to 5 because because right now Google only allows you to see 5 reviews publicly.
Right.
Outside of that, you have to do OAuth and like a whole extremely complicated thing. And I'm not sure I'm going to go down that rabbit hole right now.
That's why I'm asking. I've got a client that has a relationship with reputation.com, costs an arm and a leg, but they can bring in as many reviews as they want to.
Yeah.
And I've got other clients that would like that ability, but they don't want to pay for the relationship. So that's why I'm asking.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And Google requires that has a very, they're very limited on what you can access publicly. Else you got to pay.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
I'm sorry.
Nope. That's good. Thanks.
You know, what's funny is like, you would think like things like Yelp and whatnot as well. Like Yelp, I think gives you 3 reviews for free. And then outside of that, you have to pay like a lot of money. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It really is nuts. So anyway, I was trying to find one that had a, let's see if we can find one that has a, oh, well, there are some that, it's configured whether or not they have a booking calendar. And instead of this form, it actually shows like the kind of the hotels widget that has, where you can find the actual dates and availability and whatnot. Okay. Here's an example of, well, this one has a little bit read more, but there we go. What's other kind of interesting things here? Something that's interesting, okay, that took most of my day yesterday. This looks pretty simple, right? We just have a grid of things. Each one has these, a ton of these little SVG icons. And one thing I wanted to ensure of, let's say right now this page is loading, and there's 167 campsites. And each one has a handful of these little SVG images displayed. Okay. Plus we have all of them over here. Obviously, this contains all the possible SVGs that will be loaded or viewed. So there's 18 of them. Okay. And they're relatively small. They're anywhere from 200 kilobytes to maybe approaching a kilobyte. Okay. For the SVG. Okay. And if you think about it, now you can load an SVG like you do an image, okay? But if you do that, the reason you might want to do that instead of pasting the SVG code onto the page is caching, right? So if you load an SVG via, let's say, a warehoused image link, the browser will cache that SVG, right? Which is great, which you would think would be perfect for this situation, because then I could load in the SVG one time, and then no matter how many times it's loaded on the page, the browser will cache it. Okay. However, I want to style these with CSS, right? So depending if I hover over it, I want to change the colors. And if you bring in an SVG via a URL, like with an image tag, you cannot style it with CSS. So I want to have the SVG on the page, embedded on the page, so that I can style it with CSS. But I also don't want to load the SVG. Potentially, there's 167 sites. There's at least 4 to 5 for each website. We're talking 1,000, right? At anywhere, 500 bytes to a kilobyte. We're now talking, 600 kilobytes, maybe even a megabyte of the same SVG, right? Which seems crazy, where I would add that much weight. So, lots of thinking about what I can do with this. And so I figured out a way where I can load an SVG one time on a page. And then I basically, all these little doodads here, they reference the single SVG loaded on the page, and using something called an SVG symbol. Whether I actually added, pretty cool, I added SVG symbol support into Total CMS 3. So now you guys get to benefit from it, which would be kind of cool. It's a little advanced. It's not, obviously it's not super, obvious, but it's possible now, which is kind of cool. And let's show it off a little bit. Well, here, actually, you can kind of see it in the web page here. Let's go. Let me find where the hell these symbol. Oh, here they are. Okay, let's make this bigger so you guys can see. I don't need that. Okay. Make that a little bit bigger. All right. So in here, you'll notice that I have a bunch of SVGs. They're all set to display none. Okay. And they're all somewhere over here in the DOM. But again, you can't see them on the page. Okay. And if you open it up, it has this thing called a symbol. And inside there, it has the detailed SVG or the components of the SVG and a few other things that you need to make sure happen. Okay. So these are loaded as symbols, and all 18 of them, they're all right here. Okay. All 18 of those SVGs, which are these guys, all these guys right here. Okay. Now, let's look at this guy right here. Okay. So how am I importing this SVG? So what I'm doing is, all you have to do is this little use statement, which is kind of cool. So you just do SVG use, and then you give it the name of your symbol, and voila, it's just as if I put my SVG directly inside my button. Pretty cool. Super cool, actually. So yeah, that's what we did. Here, I'll show you. Let's open up the project here. And let's go into, okay, so here, this project didn't have folders at first when I first created this project file. So I need to go through and add folders throughout this project because, yeah, it's a really great way of organizing project files. If you haven't checked out the new folder stack and the pen updates, make sure you check those out, okay? It's in my starter pack. So let's go into this. And this is actually what creates the symbols, okay? All those symbols that we saw. And essentially, I guess I should step back and kind of show you the back end a little bit. Let me go ahead and do that. All right, let's just close that. So in my collections, I have something called types, okay? And if you notice, these are all the icons, right? I created a custom collection that just has an ID, a label, and an icon, and whether or not I added a flag to hide it or show it, okay? And if you go on that, it's just an SVG. That's all it is. Just the SVG, the name, and then an ID. So that's types. And then I also have features, which are all these other ones, okay? So I created kind of custom collections. Actually, funny enough, the types and features actually both reference the same schema, okay? So I created, if you want to get down in the weeds, I created a tag schema that the tag has all those particular fields. And then, yeah, inside the collections, we have features and types that both use that tag schema, okay? So they all have ID, label, icon, and hide feature, okay? So just to let you know kind of what that is, I have features and types. Okay. Now, so if we go back into this project, what I'm doing is here I have now, sorry if any of you are new to Total CMS 3, I am going to kind of, we're diving right into the deep end, everybody. Okay. So if you're new to this, sorry. We can answer questions after if you're blown away. Okay. So here I have a loop. I'm looping through the types collection, and essentially all I'm doing here is I'm sorry. This actually this loads in types as a variable. So I'm loading in the types collection, which is this, into a variable. And the reason I'm doing that is I know throughout my page in a couple different locations, I want to reference that collection. So instead of a power tip here for Total CMS 3, if you know you're going to use or reference a collection multiple times on a page, such as the types I'm doing here, it's better to load it into a single variable. And then in your loop stack, you're going to use preloaded data. Okay. That'll just make things a little bit faster. Because if you don't use this method, essentially what it's doing is every time you want to loop through the types or access the types, in this case, it's going to go into the CMS and pull the data again, right? So here I'm loading it once via the collection loader, okay? And then I'm looping through it here. And when I loop through it, all I'm doing is I'm adding HTML that just does the type.icon, which is the SVG file. Okay. So this is the icon field. So that is the SVG code. And then I'm running it through this new filter that I created called SVG to symbol. It basically takes that SVG file and creates a symbol out of it for us automatically. Definitely, again, a very advanced, kind of very niche thing, but it's something that I wanted. So here we go. So we have SVG to symbol, and then what you have to do is you have to give it an ID, and I just give it the ID of that type. So here, here's the icon, here's the ID, right? So that's what I do there is I just pass the ID of the type, and that's the ID of my symbol that I create. And then I do the same thing for features here. Okay. Now, fun thing, actually, I do another little thing here with a variable stack. And I create a new array that takes types and features and merges them together into something called tags. Okay. And so that way I can loop through types and features all at the same time because I've merged both of those into something called tags. Pretty cool. Again, sorry, this dives after I just said all of that and showed everything. That is way in the deep end, guys. Really cool stuff, though. Okay. Now, if we scroll further down, let's see. Here is that is looping through. Let's see, what is this? This is what page am I on? I'm on the camp. Oh, this is on the campsite page. Let's go to the campsites page because that's kind of the page we were looking at. So if I scroll down here, you'll see that inside of, I think I have it. Oh, here it is. This is the where to, the camping, and the extra features, right? This is the, oh, I closed that down. So here we have the where to with a bunch of maps, the camping in, which is all of the types, and the extra features is all of the features. So all I'm doing here is inside I have a block grid that I'm looping through, and then I'm creating all of the, oh, that's the maps. Actually, the maps isn't created with a loop. That's just kind of manually done. So I lied there. Oops. Hold on. Let's go into the camping in. That's what I wanted. And that uses actually a bento scroll stack, which is interesting. And then here I'm looping through all the types. I'm filtering out anything that has that hide checkbox set. And then I'm creating a button. And if you look inside the button here, let me go ahead and create, I need to put in my, oops, I need to open that cursor app so you guys can see my cursor a little bit better here. There we go. All right. So if we look here, right? Yeah, allow. You'll see that I have that SVG use feature, right? And here I have SVG use, and the href links to the ID of the type, right? So I'm linking to that ID of the symbol that we created earlier. Pretty slick. And here we have, so it adds the SVG, and then it adds the label in the button, which is what we see here. We have the SVG and then the label. So it loops through all of those and adds them. Pretty slick. Okay. We do that for the types. And then down here, we do that for the features, which is pretty slick. Same exact setup. I'm just looping through the features here instead. Okay. Now remember earlier, I said I created that tags. Basically inside here, I created this thing called tags that basically takes the types and features and merges them together. Okay. Why did I do that? Okay. So in my campsite grid, you'll notice that we have all of these tags here. And basically what it does is it displays all the types and all the features as little buttons below the campsite. Okay. And they look exactly the same. It's just, it displays all the types and then all the features. So if we look at that on this page now, let's scroll further down. So this is my grid that contains, it's basically this grid here. Okay. So I have my image, my campsite name, the campsite location, the summary, and then here is where we have the a little loop here. Okay. And this loop, this is another interesting variable that I create. And what I do is, so I loop through tags and I find all the tags that are contained for this campsite. Man, this is super deep end here. Okay. So what this does is it takes, actually, you know what? I forgot, I was testing around. I actually didn't need that tags because I actually dynamically merge them in here. Is it? No. All right. Let me copy this and we're going to dissect this statement here slowly because I think that would be fun. Oops, that's not what I wanted. All right. That only gives us part of it. We're going to need here, let's use the whole Josh trick, and we're gonna do that. And then can I do this? Can I? Oh wait, no. Cancel. Josh, how do you do that? You said you OCR this stuff. No, I wanna. How do you OCR it, Josh? He's not here. Oh well, whatever. We're gonna manually type it. Okay, so we just do set site tags equals. Okay, let's just do this now. We're gonna do set site tags equals, and then yeah, all right, there we go. All right, let's dissect this. This is some pretty advanced stuff here. Okay. So first off, let's simplify this. Where
my ear was switching. Did you say something about me?
It's all good. Where I got it. Okay. So first off, all right. So this here, this statement right here, if you notice, I just extracted it out. Okay. This is the way we can create a variable. Okay. So I'm creating a variable called site tags. Okay. This actually is like some data. Okay. So site tags equals some data. Okay. Now here I'm actually saying we're equaling it to tags. Okay. So I'm going to say this is tags. Okay. So site tags equals tags. Man, sometimes Code Pilot really bothers me. Let's do this below it so we can kind of dissect it like that. All right. So site tags equals tags. Now that's not helpful because I basically want to take tags and I want to filter something out. Okay. So the way we filter it out is I can say, I can do a pipe filter. Okay. And then inside that, we can do tag. And then inside this loop, okay, man, stop trying to suggest code for me. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. This is so not useful when you don't want autofill, so you can teach without autofill. How annoying is that? I assume you guys see all that, right?
Yeah.
Can I turn off? Oh, I think I can turn it off down here. Can I turn it off? Oh, thank God. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So now, essentially what this does is filter allows me to loop through all the tags and return data based on a condition, right? So I can say if tag.id or tag. title equals hello. Okay. Let's do that. Okay. So what this would do is it would say, it would look through all my tags and would filter them and find anything where the title inside each tag says hello. Right. So that's kind of what this does. So at that point, site tags is now a filtered version of tags. Does that make sense? Okay. I can take silence as consent. So let's go into this next step where I say tag ID in. All right. So let's do that. So I'm going to do tag ID in, and then basically some array. Okay. So basically, let's say this was a different variable that I had, and basically I want to see if this tag ID is inside the array, then filter based on that. Okay. Now, instead of some array, what I've done here is I've created my own array on the fly. Okay, it's essentially the same as doing this, right? All right. So basically here I said, like, I can create a merged variable and say merge the campsite types with the campsite features. Okay. And then I could go in here and say merged, right? This is exactly the same as this. Okay. And to be honest, this is probably more readable. Okay. In that we create this merged array, and it actually we then filter our tags by whether or not the tag ID is inside merged. Okay. I was trying to be fancy and that I merged these two statements together into one. However, now that I'm actually looking at this and analyzing these two codes, this second one that I just typed is actually better. Okay. Why is this better? This is better because I create this merged variable once, and then essentially what it's doing is it's referencing that inside this filter array or this filter function. Okay. However, in my example up here, where I was trying to be some cool badass developer, thinking, "Oh, look at this! This looks cool and efficient. It's less lines of code." But with this one, what this is doing is it will actually, through every single loop through tags, it merges these two things together every single time. Right? So this, even though it's more lines of code, is faster than this. So sometimes a clever developer is not always a better developer. So there we go. So I will now change my code to be that. Okay, because yeah, now that I was explaining this to you guys, I saw the flaws in my cool developer logic last night. But yeah, that was extremely deep end, some really cool stuff there. That, you know, so basically now I have a variable that has all the tags that my campsite has. I then loop through that and create all of those little badges below hand. Okay, all these little guys. There's probably 10 other ways that we can accomplish this same exact thing. Okay, and to be honest, I could probably make this 1,000 times easier if all I wanted was the SVG icon. It's easy, but because I wanted this little tooltip that actually has the label, it made my life much more difficult. Okay. If all I needed was the SVG, all I need is the ID. And at that point, I actually don't need to bring in the tags data and all that jazz, because with the ID, I could just load the symbol with the ID. So I didn't need all this fancy filter logic. But yeah, but we wanted the nice little tooltip. So there we go. Now we have it. Okay. Something I actually forgot to pass over or go over. So we have features and types. And if we go inside our campsites, okay, let's pick one. Okay. We'll see that here we have types and features, and those are just there. It's a tag setting, right? Where I can select any tag from, this is the types and this is from the features. Okay. Now I've also made it so that I can type in something custom, but I can't save it because I don't want people to be able to create a new one, a new feature, unless it's added into the features collection. Okay. So that's a possibility. If you want to see how that's done, we'll go into the campsite schema and let's look at the feature. Let's look at features. Okay. Features and types are set up exactly the same way. Basically here, I added we have relational options. So I'm pulling in all of the features, okay, all of the objects from features and creating them as options inside of my list. And then I set add choices to false. Okay. This option isn't documented yet. Okay. So if you didn't know it existed, because you didn't know it existed, because yeah, it existed before, but yeah, I didn't document it. I think I have documented it now. So anyway, so yeah, now you can turn off add choices so that they can select the existing ones that are there, but they cannot create new ones. Okay, because by default you can type whatever you want into the tags field. So that's how that is accomplished. Okay, for those that were curious on that. So yeah, yep, we have, again, that's just the types and the features. Pretty simple. It just displays the ID. Now, before I actually set it up to display the label from each of these instead of the ID. Here, and I'll show you. Well, it would take me a while to, I guess I'll show you. Let's go ahead and let's we'll do types. Okay. So inside here I have label and value set to the ID. I will set this to be label is label. Okay. And the value is ID. And I'll show you what's going to happen. Okay. Now, if you remember that the value was the ID. So it's the value, the ID of that feature that gets stored into the CMS. Okay. The label is just there to look pretty. Okay. So let's go back into our campsite and let's go into pitch temps. Okay. So now you'll notice that instead of the IDs, I actually see the label for the features, which is nice, right? If I click on Shepherd's Hut, it says Shepherd's Hut, which is nice. Okay. I have to remember which one I'm doing so I can revert this change after 04. Okay. I'm going to save this. Just save it. All right. And I'm just going to refresh this page. And if you notice what it says here is it says Shepherd's Hut again. It doesn't say the label. Okay. And that's because when it loads this form, the labels aren't known. It's what's displayed is actually what's saved in the CMS, and what's saved in the CMS for this campsite is the ID. So instead of sometimes showing the label and people wondering why the heck it shows the label sometimes and then the ID, when it's reloaded, I just decided to always show the ID. Okay, so there's that. So anyway, let me go ahead and let's revert that back to how it was. Small little tangent there. Let's go back into here. Let's go into campsite. And that was types I did. Settings. And that's ID. All right, boom. Sweet. Yeah. Any other questions on I know I went straight into the weeds on a lot of that stuff. This was a lot of work getting this data. The customer gave me a bunch of CSV files, and it was me spending lots of time with ChatGPT modifying, CSV files to format the data that we wanted in a way that made sense to get all this data into here. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff. We have obviously auth, features, members, which doesn't have anything yet, owners of the campsites. Searches. So down here, you'll notice that there's a bunch of links here. Again, the filtering doesn't work yet. So this is just a design thing at this point. but the customer wanted the ability to create like saved searches. And so basically what you'll do is they'll create these quick searches, and whenever some, let's say family friendly will like map to maybe a combination of these settings that are clicked in the filters, right? And when you click on that, it'll just load the URL with those filter options, and it'll be a pre-made quick search, right? So what I did is I just created a collection here, and it just has a URL, whether or not it's hidden from that list, and text, okay? And that's obviously the name of the link. And actually, let's reorder this. Actually, something some people don't know is the order of these columns in Total CMS 3. What determines the order of these columns, okay? So that is inside the schema. So if we go into the schema for this is a link schema. Okay, it is actually the order of these indexed properties. Okay, because as you know, the index determines what shows in that main table. Okay, so let's say I want to have my text, then my URL, and then hide, and then ID. Okay, so at that point, now you can drag and drop those, as you can see. And if you're curious, the order of these determines the order of the form. Okay, so in the form here, I have the ID, I have a hide, the toggle, I have a text box, and a URL. Okay, so let's save that. So remember in that table now, if we go into quick searches, you'll see now I have text, URL, hide, and ID. Okay, because that's what makes the most sense here. Okay. The ID for this particular collection isn't really used for anything, so just chuck it all the way at the end. It's not really useful. It's just a UUID. Okay. If anyone wants to know how to do that, just create random IDs for your objects. I can show you how to do that in a little bit. Okay. And if we click into this form, we'll notice that the order of these fields matches the order of the fields in the schema. Okay. In the future, I'm going to try to play around with some ideas that I have. It might be in this next beta. It might be the one after that. Some to give you more flexibility for creating layouts of these forms. So right now, like the form, let's look at that campsite form, right? Ginormous form that just has tons of information, right? And it's just field on top of field on top of field. It'd be really cool to be able to define some sort of layout here. I think that would be really awesome. I have some ideas on how to allow you to do that. Okay. In a pretty simple way. Okay. It's similar to, if you guys are familiar with, bento, what was it called? Bento areas. Okay. Let me turn off these show hidden stacks. If you're familiar with bento areas, here's my idea. I don't want to muck around with this project much anymore. I'll just discard changes. It's fine. You know, bento areas, the way you create your grid is by doing a bunch of names, right? So basically, you know, each area is a name, and then you define the layout of just by putting the names of your items inside of this little grid. Imagine this, but for a form, where this is the name of the field, and you can kind of visually create a grid for your form with field names. That'd be pretty cool. I see Steve laughing and smiling. He thinks it's cool too, huh, Steve? Yeah, I see it. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. So imagine that just being like a setting inside your collection where you can just define, like, manually lay out your form with this kind of syntax. Come on, dude. That's cool. Like, that'd be really cool. Okay. So anyway, there's that's my ideas on that. I think that would be pretty cool. I think it's going to be doable.
I think that will actually be pretty good. I think that's a good idea.
So yeah, that way, I mean, it's cool that it dynamically creates these forms, but like a form like this is just like, fuck, dude, that's just like not great, you know? So having at least some sort of flexibility for, you know, laying things out to have, you know, 2 or 3 columns or something like that could be pretty cool. Anyway. Okay. That was a lot. Any questions on that?
The symbols, the SVG symbols is great. That's a big help, I think.
Oh,
And
really? Interesting.
and
Cool.
instead of having to use the F6, SVG stack, I'd rather be able to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one thing I can really see the total CMS3, we're going to need a cookbook eventually.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Because there's
Yeah.
so many little things like how to do this thing. So I think a cookbook's in our future.
Yeah. Totally. Actually, for the symbols, I should probably create a little twig macro to just output that SVG use statement. So, I have one to create the symbol. We should have one to use the symbol.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. Totally need that.
And I know you use Nucleo, right? Nucleo.
Yes.
So it should be whatever you do, make it easy to get from Nucleo into the.
Yes. So here. Okay. Here's the next thing. Okay. This took me down some rabbit holes. Okay. So if you guys don't know here, I will launch Nucleo and I will launch Affinity Designer.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we need this now. Let me close this. Don't save. Okay. Okay, we don't need that. Okay. So these are all those icons that you saw. Okay. Some we've decided not to use. Okay. Now these ones at the very top, I and Rafa Designer designed these up top. To be you're not going to find much. I have to redo some of these, like glamping and bell tent and the yurt dome. I need to redo these last three because they're just duplicates of other ones. Okay. But I'm never going to find an SVG icon of a bell tent or a yurt. Okay. It's just not going to happen. So I have to create some sort of representation. I'm going to have to design that. Okay. And also a roof tent, which is a tent on top of a roof of a car. Not sure exactly how to create a simple SVG out of that, but I need to get it done. So anyway, but with that said, is all of these bottom ones, I didn't design those. Okay. I got all of these bottom ones from Nucleo. Okay. And what I did here is just so that I could supply this file to that customer. I pasted all the SVGs from Nucleo into Affinity, right? And then Affinity, it actually has quite a nice export engine. Okay. But if again, this entire row of icons, or most of them, actually this fire wasn't from Nucleo, but a lot of these were from Nucleo. Exported from Affinity, even though these SVGs were from Nucleo, it was like 10x the size, the file size. It was crazy. Okay. Now, so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to optimize the output of an SVG from Affinity Designer. And it is not easy. It is not user-friendly. I'm happy to show you guys what I came up with. It is not something I would expect most of you guys to understand or know. Okay. First off, I've tested, there's a few different SVG things. Digital small size, start there. Okay. So if you do use Affinity Designer, the default, I was using SVG for export. Yeah, don't use this digital small size. Never use SVG flatten. That is idiotic. I don't even know that's an option. Okay. It's just stupid. It creates like a bitmap version of like a PNG basically embedded in a SVG file. Like what's the point of even having that? I don't understand it. Okay. But digital small size, I found for at least these ones, the high quality and the small size, there was virtually no difference for these small types of SVG. Maybe for larger ones, it would make more sense. I don't know. I stuck with small size. It had a slightly smaller output. Okay. So now let's go into, here, I'm going to re-export. I'm going to re-export all of these guys. Okay, and I'm going to export them into here, into this directory. Okay, boop. And yeah, export. Okay. Let's close this. Don't need Affinity Designer anymore. I like Affinity Designer. But yeah, I will show you right now the problem with the export feature in Affinity Designer. Okay. And why, if you're using multiple SVGs on a page that are exported from Affinity Designer, the problems you will run into. Okay. I was not expecting to go down this rabbit hole today, but it's kind of interesting. Anyway, we'll dive into Nucleo later. Okay, let's look at those. Here, Green Cam Club, icons. Okay, let's just look at these. Now, if you didn't know, SVGs are just a bunch of code. Okay. Hopefully most of you guys, if you're here, you know that. All right, let's make this a little bit smaller. All right, well, that's really, really, really small. All right, let's make it so you guys can sort of read it. All right, so one thing the small export does, it actually, it minifies the code. So it's all like in one big, huge line, which is nice. Okay. We want that. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and just format this really quick so we can see it not minified, so we can analyze this output. Okay. Is this okay. So one thing you'll notice here, I'm trying to find one. Maybe this one doesn't have it. Let's look at, I think Motorhome does. Yes. Okay. Motorhome. Let's look at that SVG. This one here. Okay, Motorhome here. This icon. Okay. It uses so this window, okay, is clipped, right? It was a shape that was then used the subtract tool from the car, so that this car, okay, is one path, right? This little window here is subtracted from that. Same thing with the wheel well. Okay, this wheel well obviously isn't part of the original shape. It was subtracted. Okay, that way it's transparent. This isn't just a white window on top of a black image, right? It's subtracted from it. Okay. So, and all of that is done through this clipping mask. Okay. So here we have this clip path, and it has a clip one. And if you look at this group, it also then it takes a clip path and it gets the URL to clip one. Now, if you put this SVG on the page, it will work perfect. However, let's go ahead and now look at trailer. Now, if we look at trailer, it has a very similar thing. We have this clip path, and then it has an ID. And then here we have, we're using that clip path on these other paths. Okay. Now, we are taking, now these files, you should probably know that if an SVG file is loaded via an image tag, like I was talking about earlier, you can have this XML and this doc type perfectly fine. But if you're putting it directly into, let's say, an SVG stack, okay, you only get the SVG tags. So if I were to put both of these on the page, okay, if I could be lucky and they could work, okay, but I would tell you right now, when I had all of these on the page, like it was all versions of jacked up. And that's because every single one of them has a clip path set to the same ID. And so when I put one SVG on and then I put another one, the clip path gets overridden because it just takes the last clip path that it could find. And all these clip paths, because they all had the same exact ID, were all conflicting with each other. Okay. So how do you fix that? I fixed it for a long time just by, I knew this was a trailer. So I would put like trailer clip path, and then I'd make sure I went into here and I put in trailer clip path. That solved my situation for months. Okay. And it works as long as you make sure that these, I've found it mostly it's with these clip path IDs. Okay. So yeah, Affinity will output it with the same exact ID on every single one. So if you have multiple SVGs on the page, they all have a clip path. Make sure that that clip path is unique. Okay. There are, how did I fix it? Okay. I fixed it through, obviously I'm a developer, so I went ahead and ran a, hold on one second. Just do a new window. All right. I go via terminal. Okay. And I'm gonna CD into this directory right here. Okay. And I have this little, I wrote this little script called minify icons. Here, I'll even show it to you. Where is it? There it is. And this does require that you have like crap installed on your machine. The script itself is actually quite small. It just runs this one terminal command, svgo. And then I pass it a config file, which I did a lot. I spent quite a more time than I wanted creating this little config file, okay, for svgo, that gave me the most optimized versions of my SVGs that I could do, okay? And so now, if I go ahead and where's terminal? Where's my terminal? There it is, right? I could just go ahead and run this minify icons, and voila, it shrunk down all those for me. And if we go ahead and look at those now, let's look at the motorhome, okay, and let's format it so we can see it. We'll notice that another thing that it does is it makes sure these clip path IDs are unique. Okay. So there you go. Okay. There are online versions of this. I did it via terminal, but if you just if you Google SVGO, I think svgo.dev, there's this playground, which if you go ahead and I'll find, let me find one here that isn't. This one is actually, I think, an older one. So if I just copy that, you can go in here and paste your markup. Essentially what it does is it minifies it for you, and it tells you this one was already quite optimized, but it'll optimize it for you. And then you can either download it or copy the code. Okay. So that was svgo.dev, and then click on this playground button. And that will give you to this interface where you can optimize an SVG code if you want. And then that config file is essentially similar to what this little UI is here. Okay. So there's that. Okay. So that was a cool rabbit hole for SVG. Any questions on that? And then what I did is, so I found though, let me get back to Nucleo. Okay, so now I have all these exported and optimized from SVGO. Okay, but what I found was that even though the process of Affinity exporting that SVG, even though the SVG originated from Nucleo, I found that the SVGs that came straight out of Nucleo were still even smaller than all that stuff that I just showed you. By quite a bit, actually. Okay. So these icons, and I was actually floored. I wish I did that analysis earlier before wasting hours of my time doing all of this stuff. Okay. If you're using Nucleo, their SVGs are like insanely optimized. Okay. For example, like actually I decided, remember that one at Affinity, I had a campfire. I think I ultimately decided to go with the one from Nucleo. I think it was one of these ones. I don't know where it is. Interesting. Oh well. All right, maybe it was just fire. Ah, there it is. This one, right? So basically, I just right click and I say copy as SVG, and then I just pasted it in straight in. And the size of the SVGs from Nucleo are always going to be top notch. Okay. So if we go into this collection here, is this the right one? It's the wrong one. This is the right one. Into features. And if I go into Campfire. Now, one thing I do, so this is an SVG field, right? And I know it confuses a lot of people. I wish I could default it to the code view. I have a bug filed. It drives me bonkers. I wish I could do it, but I can't. So yeah, you need to click on that, then paste it in, and then you can preview it. So anyway, yeah, the SVGs that come straight out of Nucleo are the best. However, let me make a few things. So by default, let's look at this output here. We'll notice that here we have something called the fill. And if you're familiar with SVGs, you know that there's two ways of coloring parts of an SVG. It's either with fill or with stroke. Okay, this particular one uses fill. And if you look, there's no colors defined. It all says current color. Okay. And what that does is instead of you defining a color that fills, it actually uses the current text color from CSS. So that means whatever the current text color is, that is the color that SVG is going to use for the fill. Or if you used current color on the stroke, it would use the current text color as the stroke color. Okay. That is a very powerful thing. Okay. Because now you can just style SVGs using font colors inside with swatches. And it just makes things a little bit nicer. Especially, you don't have to try to override colors with a SVG swatch. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work. I find just using wherever it says fill or stroke, using the word current color, it needs to be exactly this, capital C color. So current color. Okay. Now, let me show you something that's cool with Nucleo, because Nucleo has a setting that isn't on by default that will switch out every color with current color automatically. Okay. So we're going to go into Nucleo, and if we go into Nucleo settings, there it is. It's this under copy and icons. It says replace inline colors with current color. Turn that on. And whenever you copy an SVG from Nucleo, it will always use current color. Now, what's kind of annoying is sometimes I want to use a specific color and not the current color, and there's no way to temporarily disable it. You kind of got to go in the settings, turn this off, then do it, and go back in and turn this on. Okay. But I say 99% of the time, this is exactly what I want. I recommend turning that on. Other things, I remove the title tag. I don't want titles in my SVGs. I don't need them. Okay. I mean, a lot of times it just says fire or some generic thing, and I don't want that. So I remove the title tag, and I also remove the width and height attributes. So those are three things that I have enabled that I don't believe those three are turned on by default. So if you do use Nucleo, I recommend having those three on. There we go. That way it doesn't matter if I'm in light mode or dark mode. I just right click, and it just, as you see, I right click on this, it was white, but over here, it just inherits the current text color, and voila, there we go. Sweet. There we go. That was a mini masterclass on SVGs, the advanced SVG stuff. Any other questions on anything else? We don't really, we totally went down that total CMS 3 rabbit hole today. I guess not all, it was SVG related as well, but yeah. Let's see. I think I don't have anything else. Anyone play with anyone get and play with Prince or any of the other relatively new stacks that have released lately?
Oh yeah.
No? Something I did add to for prints. I didn't dive into it. I went over it in the video, but not in detail, which could be interesting to look at. Let's clean up some of these windows I don't need anymore. Let's look at this guy. Well, I did go into how you can integrate prints with Total CMS 3 feeds and Total CMS 1. So there's sample implementations here. So if you want to know how to create a gallery, managed by any of those things, you do that here. So with Total CMS 3, pretty simple. If you're familiar with the loops, right? Inside prints, you just add in a loop gallery. And then inside here, we use the prints image CMS stack, which is kind of used for any sort of CMS style integration. Either that's Total CMS 1, Total CMS 3, or feeds. And what's cool is you could use the image URL stack, but you could put your macros inside these links. But it got me thinking of, why not just create like this kind of more convenient thing where you could just kind of see the macros right inside the settings, and you don't have to, click on the link and go into the link and paste in a macro into the link box. And so yeah, I thought this was kind of a nice way. And also it kind of, if you were to use an image URL for this, a lot of times it kind of shows up as like a 404 image inside edit mode, which isn't very nice. So yeah, basically you get the prints image all the time now, right? So now we can see our macros easier. We get something that actually looks halfway decent inside edit mode. And yeah, I thought this stack was a win. I'll probably end up doing something similar to this in a lot of my other stacks now. I'm not sure why I never thought of it before. And, I was like, oh, just use the image warehouse, and then where the image URL, you put in your macro. But it's just a little bit more convenient to be able to just see the macros a little bit more and have just a nice text area to put them in. Okay. So anyway, in this example here, I just used a Total CMS 3 gallery. Actually, if we go into the Total CMS 3 project, this will be inside the demo project for the next beta. Okay. Where essentially inside here, we go into, it's demo dots, this one. So here we are. Here it is. What we'll notice is there's square thumbnails. Okay. And that's because Total CMS can dynamically create square cut thumbnails for us. Right. So the way I got that is if we go into our admin area. Okay. So here's the gallery that it's pulling from. And essentially if we go into this link generator, right? You can create, whatever you need here, right? So I wanted square, so I would do 400 by 400, and then I would do crop focal point. And then just, let's say that's all I needed. You could do preview, make sure that that's it, copy your macro. Okay. Now, once you copy the macro, you'll notice that this isn't exactly what we need, because this is a macro for this image, for this exact image. Okay. But I want to create a macro that will work for any image in that particular gallery. Okay. So if we look at what we did here, let's go ahead and create a new, let's just file, new window. All right, let's just do this. So here we'll do a new file. Okay. So this is the macro that I got from the Total CMS admin area. But again, this particular macro is only for that one image. It's for VW Van 5. Okay. So let's look at what I've done here. Okay. So what I've done is instead of defining a specific image, okay, what I've done is I've given it image.name. Okay. And this will be standard for the loop gallery stack. Okay. If you notice inside the loop gallery, I have a bunch of macros so that you can kind of figure out what you want. If you notice, file name is image.name. Now, this particular macro has 2 curly braces. Let's see if I were to copy that and go into here, you might think, oh, I have to replace this image name with my macro. Okay. However, since we're already inside of these mustaches, we don't need those again. So at that point, I could just have image.name and it works the same. Okay. So that's how I got to this macro, was getting that macro from the edit mode or from the admin area. But then I needed to generalize it so that it worked with any image. And then I got the variable for the file name and I replaced that. And at that point, that's the macro that I put inside the thumbnail. And then repeat the process for the full image and you're done. Okay. Now here we'll notice that for the sizes, I knew this was a square image because I made it square. So I literally put in 400 by 400. Okay. However, down here, you'll notice for the sizes, I put in width and height because I don't know exactly. It could be a portrait image. It could be whatever. So I want to make sure that these attributes are getting pulled from the actual image. And all that data is inside the loop here. We'll notice that in here, I can do image.width and image.height. And I just copy and paste those with the curly braces into these fields here. And obviously down here, I want the alt tag. So I would put the image.alt macro there as well. Now, if you wanted inside prints, you can actually have a separate caption. And let's say, I don't know, you can even do, you can merge all of this stuff. Let's say you wanted the author with the copyright date, right? Maybe you want that inside the caption in the lightbox. That could be interesting, right? So you can actually put the author and the copyright information that's from the EXIF data of the image and have that displayed inside the caption, right? Pretty cool. That's really awesome stuff, right? So here, just to show you, let's say I wanted the copyright notice in there, right? I would go ahead and find the copyright macro, which I had it earlier. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is, right? So I'd copy that and I'd go into here and I'd paste it directly into my caption. Now my caption has the copyright notice from the EXIF information of that particular image. Pretty slick. And you can even add all kinds of HTML into here if you wanted to go crazy. And you can have you can display the aperture and the focus and the, shutter speed and all that stuff if you really wanted to, because all information is there, right? Could be really cool for a photographer website to display that information. So pretty slick. Next up is feeds files. So with this, if you want to store images on the server, okay, in this example, in this project file, actually in the demo file, I actually have inside resources, I created a feeds gallery folder, and then this contains all the thumbnails, okay? And then inside of feeds gallery, I created a full folder that contains all the full resolution images, okay? Just that we know that kind of structure, okay? Let's look at how I set up feeds files. One thing I added in an update this week, as I was creating this, I thought I should create that same kind of macro hints that I've done for Total CMS 3 for feeds files. So now all the macros that you could use, that you might want to use, are all accessible right here, and you just copy and paste them, okay, which is kind of nice. But here I set up my my folder, okay? The folder is going to be, obviously, because I put it inside the resources folder, it's going to be /resources/feeds gallery. Remember, and that is going to be the folder that contains all the thumbnails, right? All right. Now, so it's going to loop through all the images or all the files in that folder. And I say ignore folders because I don't want it to process anything. I just want it to process just the files in that, which are the images. Then I do that prints image CMS, just like we do Total CMS. But in this case, we're going to use the macros from feeds files. So for the thumbnail, I use the path macro because that's going to give me the path to the file. I do the width and height because feeds files actually, it'll recognize if something is an image and actually get the width and height of that image as well, which is pretty cool. Okay. But then for the full image, I need to do a little bit of work because the path macro is the macro of the path to every thumbnail. But in the full, essentially what I did was, if we look at that again, so inside gallery, we'll see that I have all the images, all the thumbnails, and then inside full, I have all the full resolutions. And what's interesting is I made the names of the files exactly the same, right? So the thumbnails and the full images have the exact same names. It's just the full images are inside the full directory, okay? So if we look at what I did here, the full image is the directory /full/ the name of the thumbnail. So that is now the full path to the full image. And then it's going to be the same exact aspect ratio as the thumbnail. Since feeds files doesn't do any sort of dynamic sizing, I'm going to use the same exact width and height as we have for the thumbnail. Technically, the width and height are going to be different, but what's important is the aspect ratio of the ratio of the width and height is the same. So that's why I can do the same thing here. Now, a side effect, there is no way of getting alt tag information with feeds files. So you're just going to have to, you can use maybe the name of the image or something like that. But yeah, you're not going to be able to like get some sort of unique alt tag information with this. But you could make it somewhat unique by getting the name, I guess, the name macro in there or something like that. But yeah, you're not going to get full blown alt tag caption information like we can from Total CMS. So there's that. Any questions on that? Some pretty cool stuff there.
So that demo comes with prints.
It does, yes. It has the RapidWeaver and the Stacks 6 version. You get both project files.
Oh, we should have a look at that one.
Yeah. Now Stacks 6 doesn't support resources yet. So the resources aren't added to that. So if you're using the Stacks 6 project, you'd have to manually up those right now. That is something that will come before the official launch. But it's not ready yet. And sometimes I forget. I do have a version of Stacks 6 that works with feeds. The current version, I forget that I have a slightly updated version. The next beta that you guys will get will work with feeds. So yeah, sorry about that. I forgot. I showed off some stuff in the videos with PHP stacks using Stacks 6, and people were like sending me emails. What the heck is not working for me? And I forgot that. Yeah, it works for me. Feeds does.
Just quickly, Joe, your hosting thing, when will that be coming?
It's something I would like to. I'll have a better idea at the end of summer. Okay.
Yeah, because my hosting runs out middle of next year.
Okay. So yeah, I wanted to have it shipped by the end of this year. I'll be honest, I don't think that's probably going to happen, but I'll have a better, clearer idea in late summer, early fall, on how that will happen. I definitely want to like move all my websites to it and get that working, and then maybe do a few invite only people that want to help me beta test it. So yeah, but I definitely need to make sure I have I need to eat my own food, right? So I need to migrate all my stuff to my own servers.
Make sure it all works.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So yeah, I prefer eating my own dog food because yeah, I think it's smart.
Good.
It's like some devs that would, sold Stacks but built their website in WordPress. It never made sense to me.
Press. No. God.
Sweet. Anything else, guys? I'm happy to stay on as long as you guys want to stay on and chit chat. Any other questions? No. Sweet. I guess we'll call it a day then.
Very
cool. Thank you very much for joining, everybody. I hope you learned. I hope I didn't bore you too much? I know sometimes I get on those, I go down those rabbit holes, and some people are just like, you know. So
Well, that's great. And I learned about the SVGs. That has thrown me in the past.
oh yeah,
I
okay.
love Designer, and I've thrown SVGs up, and I'm like, why can't I get the two different logos to both appear? And now, yeah. So, yep.
Cool.
So, thank you. Appreciate
Excellent. My pleasure, Dave.
it. Yep.
Cool.
Thanks, Joe.
Take care, guys. Hopefully
Everybody
see
have a
some of
good
you guys
day.
on Friday.